Hi, welcome to this episode of Punk Love and Compassion. This episode, I have Todd with me from Montgomery, Alabama, and he sings for a really fun band called the Abusements. Before we get into a conversation, a couple of housekeeping things. One, sort of the parent organization podcast group I belong to, the Alabama Take. They have a bunch of other podcasts. I recommend going and checking those out, covering pop culture and sports and reading and Star Wars and that kind of stuff. So if you're into that kind of stuff, please jump over there, take a look at it. I also do another podcast with my son called Hidden Creatures, and it's about cryptids and paranormal and aliens and fairies and stuff like that. So if you're into stuff like that, also jump over to Hidden Creatures, give that a listen. My son would be so stoked if you did that. Lastly, speaking of my son, he is here in the house. I also have some dogs and a wife, and sometimes they all show up in the background of these. I have chickens that peck at the door right where I record. So if you hear any of those things, that's what they are. With that, Todd, would you like to give yourself any further introduction versus my very small, brief one?
Well, there ain't nobody here but us chickens, huh?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm Todd Sauvignier, and I'm with Abusements, and I am 63 years old. I am not an attorney. And shucks, I don't know where you want to start. I kind of go way back in this. And I was one of these, as a high schooler, I was fortunate to get involved in a very small but intense punk rock scene in Portland, Oregon. That was sort of dominated by the
hold on right there.
People like that.
You're jumping ahead of me just a little bit. So, Portland, 14, long time ago. Do you remember the first punk song you ever heard?
Yes.
What was
it? Beat on the Brat by the Ramones got played on the Dr. Demento radio program, which I was one of these avid listeners as. This was before punk rock was really a thing. I don't know if he ever played Beat on the Brat by the Ramones more than once on that program, but he played it. And I had read about the Ramones, and I was like, oh, so this is punk rock? I'm not that impressed. I remember being left a little cold by it. And it was like, okay, well, I guess I get the joke. It was the Sex Pistols that turned me on. That was the epiphany, and that happened some short time later.
Cool. Fair enough. And then, so next question is, do you remember how long it was, or at what point in time you went from, okay, like I know this punk rock thing exists, I've heard the music, but now, like, there's a community, there's a scene, all of that?
Oh, well, it took a while because I was stuck in this backwater of Portland, Oregon. And the day I first laid eyes on the Sex Pistols in this 30-second clip on TV late at night, I believe it was a bit of the Anarchy in the UK film clip. And I was like, holy shit, this is for me. My music is here. I can't describe to you how much I hated the Allman Brothers and Led Zeppelin and all of this bullshit long hair fucking freedom rock. I thought that stuff was crap and I never liked it. And to have punk rock come along, I was like, hallelujah, my music is here. This is guaranteed to infuriate everybody. And in the next second, I realized, and I've completely missed the train. I'm stuck here in Portland, Oregon. All of punk rock is happening in London and New York. I've blown it already. And it took a couple of years for things to really get rolling. But by 78, there started being all ages shows in Portland. And we picked up on that stuff, man. I tell you, as soon as I was cognizant of what was going on and able to, like, put it together, well, we would get on the bus and go across town. And his first show was the DOA and the Dills.
Wow.
I can't remember if it was the Ziplocs opening or Harikari or who it was. But DOA and the Dills, and DOA made an enormous impression on me. And this was the three-piece DOA, the first lineup. And my mind was blown by Randy Rampage. My life was changed by that gig, I think. And I knew, boy, shit was getting going, okay? And we couldn't stay for the Dills because the last bus was going to come, and it was a school night, and there was no parent pickup. We were clear across town. So I had to bail on the Dills, which I really regret. I never got to see them. But I'm way off topic. Where are we going with this?
No, that was all perfect.
Okay.
And a good segue.
And this God, I can't even remember. I think 78.
Okay.
I was taking the bus, so I couldn't drive. I must have been like, 14, 15, I think.
Cool. So at what point in time then, from that to like, okay, this is not just something I'm going to be like a passive participant in, but versus like an active participant?
I was already a musician when punk rock came along. And that's thanks to Mom and Dad making me sit down and take piano lessons, just like they'd been forced to, just like their parents had been forced to. And so I was already a musician. And then Bob Dylan kind of opened my ears to rock and roll. It made me want to be a lyric writer, even more than a musician. So, because thanks to Bob Dylan, I was fully engaged and, doing things like reading Rolling Stone and, Cream magazine and stuff like this at a tender age. So,
yeah. It's funny you bring up Bob Dylan. My son is 11, about to turn 12, and he came home from school one day this year, picking him up from school, and he got in, and he said, one of my teachers thinks that Bob Dylan is punk rock. And I said, okay, what do you mean by that? He said, well, we were in history class, and she asked us, what kind of music we want to listen to. He said, and I said, punk. She put on Bob Dylan. I was like, well, Bob Dylan sort of is punk rock. Like I said, you may not you may not find his music under the punk category in the record store, but if you look at what he was singing about and what he was doing, and that's sort of punk rock.
He's like Johnny Rotten to me, man.
Yeah.
He's like D. Boone to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of stuff.
And Bob's still out there, man. He's playing tonight somewhere for like not very many people.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of seeing him a couple times. And sometimes it has been absolutely amazing. And sometimes it's been absolutely horrible.
Yeah, no, he can be real spotty. He was tight and his band was on the last time I saw him.
Yeah, the last time I saw him.
I saw Tom Petty blow him off stage, and it was bad for Bob, and it was bad for the crowd. And it was not that good for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers either. I mean, they're out with this guy who they respected. He was sucking hard. So,
yeah, we all have our off
No,
nights.
we'd be lucky to have off nights like that, okay? So I was at the amphitheater and I sucked. We would be lucky. We would be fortunate for that kind of off night.
Okay, so how did that, the musician pre-punk rock turn into musician in punk rock?
Good question. As I said, I didn't have any interest in what I felt was bullshit hippie music. And I really liked, I think the American Graffiti soundtrack album, which was a double LP packed with the greatest hits of the first wave of rock and roll, was probably the key document that shaped my hearing pre-punk. Okay, and so that's thanks to that record, and hats off to George Lucas, who compiled one hell of a good soundtrack album with practically every song that matters of the 1950s.
Yeah.
Certainly touching all the bases. And so that's how I got into Chuck Berry and especially Little Richard. And that was what I thought rock and roll was and should be, especially Little Richard. This stuff that's just off the hook.
Yeah, Little Richard, arguably, an argument could be made for him to fall into the punk rock umbrella.
Also on that album was the Beach Boys, which was a big ear opener. And their vision of an American teenagerhood that lasts all summer long and involves things like cars. Anyway, their fake vision of American teenagehood and a California lifestyle that was aspirational, just like fit real well with my kind of, junior high, hormonally driven, I was nobody. I was a geek in junior high. I was a dork. And, man, I wanted shit to click. I wanted to be like Fonzie or something, right?
Yeah.
That's a horrible thing to say, but shit, that was sort of the frame of reference.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, I was not even Richie cool. I was a dweeb,
Yeah.
and but we all thought we were little Fonzies.
But I assume at that point in time, like that's sort of who the adolescent American hero was, right?
Was that,
Like that.
that was about what you were presented, or Evil Knievel, or
right?
I don't know what Up with People.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of healthy young Republicans.
Right. And then, Sid Vicious and Johnny Rotten walk through the door.
I was like, oh, my guys are here. Like, this was what I was waiting for. This is going to piss off everybody on the school bus and concern my parents greatly.
Yeah.
And that was definitely what I was going for, because I hated those cocksuckers on the school bus. Every day they would play that fucking Van Halen tape. I was made to hate Van Halen thanks to my classmates. That was just all they knew and all they thought was cool. And they would blast that shit every possible moment. And you know what? That was good music. All right? That was good music. It just had the wrong fans, especially at that moment. I was fortunate later on. Somebody invited me to see Van Halen, and I went along because they had a party in the back of their car. Who cares about this band? And they blew me away, and they are geniuses, and I'm glad I saw them in their heyday, okay? But you can be made to hate music by being such a partisan, and I was definitely a partisan, for better or worse.
It happens. I think also as we grow older, sometimes we gain an appreciation for something that we didn't have when we were.
Oh, yeah.
I know a lot of bands who, when I first heard them or found them or whatever, I was like, God, not doing it. But then with age and maturity and knowledge, I was like, you know what? Still may not like them, but I can appreciate what they do.
And I say to you listeners, don't be afraid to like what you like. Don't be so intimidated by your peers or your own impression of what you should be doing to overlook stuff that you think is good and brings you pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, Steely Dan is my secret vice. And I can admit to it now, but that was deep undercover for a long time. Okay? And I know many people consider Steely Dan the worst music ever contrived, but it speaks to me so deeply. So there you are.
Yeah, I mean, I was also guilty of disliking bands, not because of their music, but because I didn't like the people who listened to them. And it's like, oh, I don't like this group of people, so I don't like this band because this. Yeah.
And it's basically, I don't like Led Zeppelin because gross older teenagers like Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
There you were, gross people with long hair, like that kind of hippie music, like the Allmans. Now, folks, that was me as a kid. Okay, I love the Allman Brothers and I adore Led Zeppelin. I'm not stupid. Okay, I don't want to hear from y'all about this. I do love these groups and Black Sabbath too. Okay, it took a long time for my ears to open up.
Gotcha. Yeah, it happens. It's a journey. Yeah. It's a journey.
Yeah, but I sold my autograph to Ted Nugent. Okay, like I was one of these guys. I was in the front row for Ted Nugent. I was that into it. We didn't know he was an asshole. Okay, we didn't know that he was a complete racist jackass. We thought he was the greatest guitar player to ever come down the pike. And Ted Nugent did do hammer-on solos, albeit one-handed. But he was doing a hammer-on solo well before we saw Eddie Van Halen come out with that.
Yeah.
But, I sold that record in a hot minute. Fuck Ted Nugent. And, got a Germs record.
Yeah. Well, yeah, people are people. And as we realize people's politics or worldviews or whatever, it doesn't change the impact their music has had on us.
It does.
Right?
It absolutely changes it. Okay, but music is so personal and such an extension of the personality. A lot of the times what we're consuming is the musician's image or our fantasy about their life, not just the recording that they made.
Yeah.
And this is why I ain't going to listen to no Michael Jackson records anymore, even though he was really big to me in the 1980s. And I ain't listening to no R. Kelly or Kanye West either. I'm sorry, folks. I'm not into those guys. I ain't listening to no Gary Glitter records. Okay?
Fair enough.
The music is intensely personal, and you cannot separate the art from the artist, nor should you, because a lot of what you're consuming is the artist. Period. That's what people pay for, is proximity to the guy. Okay? You can't even sell a record anymore. Believe me, I've tried.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know, I might, to a degree, I agree with you, but also disagree with you for a little bit, because I think initially, yes, like the art is the artist, but that art does become personal to the person at some point in
Yes,
time,
it takes
right?
on
So,
a life of its own once the listener gets hold of it. For
right.
sure.
I'm not going to go out and buy music from these people once I figure out who they are. But the music I already have and some of those songs are just really personal to me and have sort of existed beyond what the artist is. For example, there's a light that never goes out by Smiths, right?
Oh, here's a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's an excellent example of an artist who we don't like that guy anymore.
No, like at all. But that song to me has taken on so much more definition and life beyond that artist.
Smith's record slapped, and I think that we
Yeah.
have Johnny Marr to thank for that.
Right.
I think those were good records in spite of the big twat.
Yeah.
I think it's also really cool that they never got back together with that guy in spite of the large amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they don't.
Yeah. I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
Well, all right. There's also levels to things. Like, for all of his foibles, I don't think Morrissey was raping little kids.
I agree with you.
No one's ever accused him of that.
Yeah.
He's a giant racist twat.
Yes, he is.
Is he the Ted Nugent of New Wave? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but
Yeah. I got you. Okay. Back on focus. And we're probably
deep
gonna
into
run
the
off
woods
on-
here. Anyway,
Oh,
there's
and-
this thing
and
that
the-
happened in Oregon, though, that I wanted to tell you about since you're talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
community building.
Yes.
There were these older guys and this small group of people who were a few years older than me and they could have just done shows in bars and that would have been okay, but they were determined to keep putting on all ages shows one way or another by either doing them in clubs that were non-bars or doing them in bars but putting away the booze for an all-ages event. And that was a novel solution that I think at the time you could only see in Oregon, where they would like literally throw a blanket over the fucking booze and bring kids into the bar and then chase them all out at 9 o'clock so that the adults could come in and resume drinking. But anyway, this group of guys, and there's some very specific guys here I'm talking about. One of them is named John Shirley, and he's known from literature as the father of cyberpunk.
Okay.
John Shirley was the author of The Crow, and he was in a band called Sato Nation in Portland. He was just a weird guy from Salem. And this other guy, Fred Cole, who was later in Dead Moon, but at the time was in a band called King Bee, and later the Rats, and had this guitar store called Captain Whiz Eagles. And this other guy, Mark Sten, who was, well, I'm not sure what he was other than a malcontent, but those three guys and some others got together and made sure that there was this series of gigs that went on that created a scene, and eventually it put together a club that was stable and ran for about a year as a cooperative, sort of community-based venture with an actual 501c3 and a board of directors, and this kind of apparatus behind it. This was a hugely successful cultural operation at getting a whole bunch of kids my age engaged in starting bands, doing gigs, running fanzines, all that kind of action. And it resulted in sort of an enduring scene in Portland that helped sustain the Seattle groups and a lot of other folks. I'm real proud of having been part of it. They asked me to be, I was for a while a member of the board of directors of that outfit at age 18, which is kind of nuts. Was I in over my head? Not really. I was just fully engaged. And it was really good training for what I ended up doing. But yeah, it fell apart. It got replaced by a largely bar scene with occasional all ages things. But Portland ended up blossoming. And here today, there's so much happening musically in Portland and Eugene. And yeah, well, it's the kind of thing that sets you on a good path. And I'm really grateful to these elders. Mark Sten is still alive, and so is John Shirley. Fred Cole has passed, but his wife Tootie was in there with us the whole time, Kathleen Cole. She's still around, playing festivals this summer. So that affected my outlook and informed what I ended up doing. One of the projects was setting up a chain of technology access centers, and sort of self-training centers for musicians and other music professionals throughout Louisiana. It was a project called Music Office Co-op. And so we would set up these well-equipped offices with studios attached in 7 different cities. And in most of these places also offered band rehearsal on a monthly basis or a private studio room on a monthly basis, which paid the bills for this project, made it self-sustainable. And that was a really terrific project to do. We used somebody else's money. We did it under the banner of a nonprofit foundation. And we were able to, over the course of its 7 or 8 year run, touch hundreds, maybe thousands of Louisiana musicians and help them earn a little more money at what they were doing by helping them be more organized, more professional, more prepared and able to deliver and to have more marketable results.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the whole punk rock ethos anyway, right?
Well, it was absolutely an application of the punk rock ethos, except all of our clients were involved in hip hop, soul, R&B, country western, pretty much everything but punk rock. So that was interesting, you know? But it's the same ethos. It's the same kind of chores that we got to do.
Yeah, but it's also community building, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So even though the community isn't necessarily spiked hair and spiky belts and patches, right? It's still that greater music community.
Yes.
And even greater world community and sort of throw in like the tailings of punk rock into it.
So this thing that I was a small part of was associated with Tipitina's. It was the best scene in New Orleans, where we had a former hotel that had been turned into a mini storage and band rehearsal with apartments attached. I lived there. And the groups that practiced there ranged from the Suplex and I Hate God to George Porter and Ivan Neville, and it was pretty much everybody on the New Orleans scene. 100 different bands had rooms there. You could hear them playing all day and night. It was quite a situation.
Yeah, I bet.
In a smaller way, I've done that with my own money here in Montgomery, although we only have 40 rooms, and half of them are taken over by cosmetologists and other businesses. It's a smaller recording and rehearsal scene here in Montgomery. Yeah. But there's a few bands that rehearse here, including my own, and a whole bunch of people making hip-hop and electronic music on a very commercial level. And it's an honor to support that. It's not always easy. And it's definitely not always smooth, but it's a thing I'm able to do within capitalism,
Yeah.
I sold my house in New Orleans. I had bought at a really good time right after a flood and took something that was pretty much worthless and fixed it up, and my neighborhood had changed. So I walked out of this New Orleans situation with just enough money to buy a modest commercial building in Montgomery, Alabama, which is a very small market where the prices are very depressed generally. But it was enough that I could pay cash for this building and live there while trying to get a rental business started. That worked.
Nice.
And I'm never going to become a millionaire doing this, and I have to work 7 days a week. But it's not 24 hours, okay?
Yeah.
Mostly I screw around with music. And it allows me to foster 40 different small businesses, including a number of music producers, these live groups, and a bunch of other people who are just kind of feeding their family and putting shoes on their kids by their activities here. It's been gratifying to see it work. I don't think anybody believed it would.
We live in a capitalistic society, right? So there are some frameworks that we have to live by living where we live, but that doesn't mean we have to buy into all the rules of it, right? Like we approach that system with compassion, with empathy, and with a sense of community versus how can I screw everybody over to get everything?
Yeah. I believe, as do many, that housing is a human right. As a result, I don't work in residential real estate, period. I don't want to be anybody's home landlord, ever. I don't want that power over another human being. And so, by choice, I only deal with commercial. I help people who are small businesses. The experience of living in Montgomery means that I had a chance to go to the Equal Justice Initiative and learn about the history of Montgomery and how corrections work in this community. And let me tell you, anybody with a felony is going to have a hard time renting commercial property, ever. And so I rent to them. And basically I offset that by living here and keeping an eye on things so that it never gets out of hand. And if somebody's doing wrong, we identify it and walk them out quick. Yeah, I've allowed my own leftist views to influence how I run this business, for the better of people who might not be getting a chance from mainstream capitalism, especially mainstream commercial landlords who are corporate shitbags, as far as I am concerned. I compete with giant corporations that are billion-dollar concerns and are, rotten. And I can outmaneuver and outprice and outposition them every day of the week. That's pretty easy. I do okay in my little niche. I'll just never be any threat to them. Capitalism sucks, kids, but we're stuck here, and you got to learn how to play this dumb game, or you're really, really fucked, okay? Just saying, oh, capitalism sucks, I'm not going to learn business, I'm not going to deal with money. Well, then you're going to deal with starvation.
Yeah.
It bites, and you've got to be smart, and you've got to look out for yourself and not just be trying to pull a scam all the time, okay? I encounter a lot of people who are on the scam, and it don't work, friends. You get caught up short, okay? Whether it's big or small, there's nothing honest to it, and in the long run, you will fail. I say this especially to, the people who are trying to re-engineer our society from the right. They're a bunch of grifters, and we see them having a party at the White House right now, but it will not last.
Yeah. No.
You got to do things that are honest. And, shoot. Now we're pretty far from punk rock, and I'm sounding like some grumpy old guy who's trying to justify his place in the world,
Well, yeah, but we're still talking about community. We're still talking about...
Yeah, I'm lucky to have built this little community of business people who are at least like-minded enough to all work in the same place together.
Yeah.
Make money together without interfering with each other. And that's kind of beautiful. I'm digging it. It allows me the freedom to mostly screw around with music.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also important that, you're giving people a second chance, right?
First chance in a lot of cases.
Right. Because a lot of people don't get that. People make mistakes. They screw up. They do shitty things. It's not always this black and white thing of like, okay, this person did this and this is their consequence. Now we're going to judge them for it the rest of their lives. Who the hell knows everything that went into that decision, right?
Man, if you live in the South, if you grew up in the South, I'm sorry to say it, don't get mad, but categorically, you got cheated out of a good education. You didn't get no sex ed. Let's start right there.
Yeah.
And it's not just Alabama. This is Louisiana and this is the South. You got cheated out of an education, and now you're being cheated out of an economy that has been sent overseas. So it's not just black, it's everybody.
Yeah, no.
I apologize. Can we take a break for a second? I need to refill my coffee, reset my brain. I just went into vapor lock, but I want to keep going.
Yeah, no worries. I'm going to hit stop.
Okay.
Cool. We are going.
Okay, our story so far. I was very lucky to be born a white male in Oregon when there was a show business and technology revolutions underway. And I was able to get a good education almost in spite of myself. I certainly put up a fuss about it. I did get expelled from Beaverton High School my junior year. That was exciting for booze. But I got lucky in career and got involved in what I wanted to in California, which was music technology. Then I got lucky in real estate in New Orleans. I was able to walk away with enough to buy a property in a small town in Alabama where I knew nobody, but it seemed like a chance to make another start. And then I got lucky running a small business in Montgomery and surviving to this wicked old age. But I had to reinvent myself along the way a couple of times, Bo. My scene in California fell apart with the .com meltdown. And I went from making about $110,000 a year to making $0 a year. And that'll put a change on your head, man. That's like stepping off a cliff. And so, I wound up in the South where I knew basically nobody but my mother-in-law and had to find a new career somehow. Then after that career, which ran real well for 11 years, but after that bottomed out in New Orleans, I couldn't get hired in New Orleans anywhere. It sucked. And I felt like a broken human being and had to take a chance on myself, starting something that I thought would work, but everybody else was skeptical of. And, well, I got lucky. It worked. I'm still here.
Right.
This is the 10th year of running this place, so I guess I succeeded.
Yeah.
And I'm not in debt. How about that?
Nice.
It worked.
I think that personal reinvention thing, it happens. You know, it's part of the journey, right?
Yeah, or you go down in flames.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on like the 14th reinvention right now.
It's portrayed as an American story. You stride out into the wilderness with your ex-wife nipping at your heels and bills flying in the rearview mirror, but you stride out to the wilderness and reinvent yourself. Yeah. Put on a new suit and get right with Jesus or whatever you have to do. And well, everybody loves that story. Mm-hmm. It's messier than that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think that has become the new, like, sort of definition of the American dream, where the original version is much more solvent, right? And I think the original version is why so many people are so upset now. And I'll go into a little bit with that.
Okay, let's be clear on what we're talking about as, quote, the American dream, which is a complicated stack of lies. Was this the single family dwelling with the one job that supports the whole group and, the two cars?
Well, no.
That consumerist dream?
No, I think it's even earlier than that, right? I think it's a combination of what you said earlier. It's going out and making yourself something.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Like going out and making yourself something.
Oh, the pioneer.
Yeah, the pioneer American dream, right? And creating this new life for yourself that was better than the old.
Yes.
You know,
folks, and this was a big lie, folks, because it ignored whose land this was that we were creating the new life on. Okay?
Right.
But let's be just, I'm telling you this, but
yeah,
kids listening at home.
Yeah. But I think one of our biggest imports is that dream, like that America is still this land of opportunity. And we're probably going to venture into politics here a little bit, but whenever it's my podcast, we can do what we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's key to the marketing of America, especially to immigrants.
Right. Yes. And that's why all these people come here, is because like they are trying to make something better for themselves.
Yeah.
And
can I digress here for a second?
Yeah, please.
Because America sets up obstacles to everything you try to do. And I don't mean just at the federal level. I mean particularly at the local and state level. There's just all of these everywhere you go, especially if you're trying to make something better for yourself and be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. You're taxed into non-existence almost immediately. Now, I was over in Vietnam, and the Communist Party runs the place. But you know what? It is go-go capitalism on every level in Vietnam right now. From the street to the towers, there is business, 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 and the government wants no part of it. They're not saying no to nothing. They're not taxing or licensing. If you want to set up a restaurant on the sidewalk, you can do it. Mm-hmm. And many do, okay? They set up restaurants in front of other restaurants on the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. Cooking on the sidewalk. Don't trip. That's somebody's dinner they're cooking, okay? You want capitalism. You want entrepreneuring. Take a look at what's going on in allegedly communist Vietnam, okay? Where people are just allowed to start business and the government stays completely out of it. I'm not saying that's great. Mm-hmm. Their infrastructure, once you look kind of behind the main streets, there's a lot of problems. The condition of their legacy infrastructure is, anyway, Bo, it was good for me to get a peek at how other folks lived. Right? Americans take themselves pretty damn seriously and think they've got all the answers to problems, and they absolutely do not. There's a much larger world that is paying us a little mind, and it's for the best.
Well, I'm going to jump back to the American dream, this exported American dream, right? I believe that some of the biggest conflict between Americans and immigrants it's masked between, oh, they're going to take our jobs, and oh, they're going to do this, and oh, they're going to bring crime. But what I think the deeper causation of that is these people have something we have lost. I think most Americans have just accepted their role in life. Like, okay, this is all I can ever be now. Whatever it is, this is all I can be. And then these people from other places are coming in and like, well, how can these other people come in and be successful? And they're coming here trying to get something that I can't get myself. I don't think it's really about crime and all that other stuff. I think it's that lost sense of hope.
Well, I think people are taught to be xenophobic for economic reasons.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, definitely.
There's an ongoing project to create a permanent, exploitable, and expendable underclass.
Yes.
And it's so much easier for these racists if that underclass is brown-skinned or yellow-skinned or whatever.
Because if we buy into that, then we can't really look at the bigger problem.
Yeah, no. I think there's the fundamental issue behind it. Well, immigration is a labor issue. Okay? Immigration is not a cultural issue. It's not a social issue. It is a labor issue. And yeah, they want cheap immigrant labor that they can spray with chemicals and withhold pay from if they feel like it. It's, there's your American dream. Come and get it, folks.
Yeah. Okay. Try to get back on some kind of topic.
Hey, I'm like Mr. Negativity.
Yeah.
What's your T-shirt say?
Have you heard that band Or Else? They're from Birmingham.
No.
So they're more grind. Here, let me.
I'm trying to figure out what the design. Oh, it's like rainbow bars. Okay, good. I'm down.
Yeah. They're more grind than whatever.
Happy Pride Month to all of our listeners. Those who celebrate.
Definitely. But they're great dudes. I'd recommend checking them out and reaching out to them.
All right.
Definitely aligned.
How was the gig?
It was good. So we ended up on a last minute show Friday. One of the other bands dropped off. So I was here in town. And then last night in Birmingham, we played with Boomstick from Nashville. They're cool dudes. They're more, I'd say they're more like party punk. Just want to have a good time and whatever. But, one or two of their songs lean a little political. It's like, one of their newer songs called Throw Rocks at Nazis. And then we played with a band from Pensacola called Kinder, Gentler. And I really dug them. Just really, really dug them. And then played with Hans Condor from Nashville again. And they put on an amazing live show.
This seems like big time rock and roll.
Yeah. And just a lot of energy. Yeah. So it's really like the bands were amazing. Yeah. Fun time. And then there's us who are never scared of speaking our minds.
How's the new bass player?
Oh, she's great. She definitely has more of a following than the rest of us do. After every show, people were like, hey, can we get our pictures? Well, so last night, I was over at our merch table or whatever, and people were, a couple, 4 or 5 kids came up to me. And they're like, hey, where's your bass player? And she had gone out of the room. I was like, oh, yeah, she's over there. And I said, do you think we can get our picture taken with her? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then jokingly, I was like, what, you don't want your picture taken with me? And they're like, she sort of rocks. I was like, yeah, go for it. Like, yeah, take all the pictures you want. Like, go ask her, but I'm sure she will be more than happy. None of the rest of us, people didn't care. But no, she's doing great. She picked up all the songs really quick. We're writing new songs. She's awesome. And she moved up here from Florida. So she was with a couple bands down in Florida. She's done tours, like really gets it and really gets like what we're trying to do. And one of the things that we do with our merch that we get criticized on frequently is like I don't price any of our merch. And so the way people pay for it, we ask people to pay either what they can or what they think is fair. And we don't judge, we just ask them, like, don't take advantage. So if you want a shirt and you only have $5, like, cool. But if you want a shirt and you have $20, cool. And people will get criticized on it all the time. Like, oh, people are going to take advantage. They're going to lie. They're whatever, And with me, and we've talked about with a band, it's, if somebody lies like that doesn't impact our accountability, and that doesn't impact our integrity, and that doesn't impact what we are trying to do with the world. That's on them, And for us, it's we feel it's more important for our message to get out there than for the $20 from the shirt. For us, and we're not judging anybody else. Like, this is just a decision we've made for our band, much like, we only play all ages shows, which limits, in Huntsville especially, the shows we get to play.
I didn't know that was your policy.
Yeah.
That's an admirable policy. That's the Fugazi approach. And
yes, but
we boy, good for you.
Yeah. And again, for us, it's we all grew up in a scene with access. We all had access. Johnny's from Boston and Bill's from Memphis, and I grew up in the Northern Virginia, D.C. scene.
I didn't know he was from Boston. Now he starts to make sense. What part of Boston is Johnny from?
I don't know. I mean, he's lived all over.
Okay,
but,
I used to live in Boston.
For all of us, we had access, right? And without those all-ages shows, none of us would be here. Yeah. And so, again, for us, I'm not, we're not criticizing anybody else. We all realize whatever. But for us, it's how can we create this bigger community and refresh the community and bring more people and new people into this community without having access to those people. And talking to somebody, they're like, y'all really need to play bar shows. You'll have access to like a different crowd, a newer crowd. And I said to him, I was like, okay, cool. I said, so most of our fans are under the age of 21. So if we play a show that's only 21 plus, all these people who like us, all these people who come out to us for whatever reason, aren't able to come. But if we play an all ages show, like everybody can come to it. So somebody's not going to come to a show because it's all ages. Like, then they're really not the people I want coming to my show anyway. For us.
Yeah.
So that's just how the way we do things. And we have played some 21 plus shows, but it's very, very rare. And it's typically when we're doing a favor for somebody, like somebody dropped off, they just need somebody to plug in last minute or something like that. But I would say the vast majority of our shows, especially if we know about it like way ahead of time, are strictly all ages.
Okay. Well, I think booking is something that I would be quick to say that I don't do it well. Mm-hmm. I don't really enjoy it as a task. And it's become challenging for us because it's a cliquey scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sort of just take what gigs are offered us.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while we'll throw one. We threw one at a bar here recently, and we had a good time. Yeah. The bar owner was great about it. She was, and the Nowhere Squares couldn't make it. It was heartbreaking. Yeah. We at the request of the Nowhere Squares, we'd kind of produced this thing, and then they couldn't make it at the last minute. A good time was had anyway.
Yeah.
They're good folks, and we'll work with them again soon. But I'll tell you, I wanted to point out that we are at this curious moment here.
Uh-huh.
Punk rock, in many ways, was a project to destroy the record industry and also get our hands on tools of production so we could make our own records. And punk rock failed at that a lot. What succeeded at destroying the record industry and democratizing access to tools was the tech business. And so here we are today, where the record industry is this tiny shrunken thing, and it cannot sustain us. It's impossible to sell recorded music or for that matter, video. And what we are left with is selling either proximity in the form of gigs, tickets, or selling merchandise like clothing. It's a curious predicament. Us musicians, especially the boomers like myself, were conditioned to a sort of anti-capitalism where we didn't want to sully ourselves with things like shilling for Budweiser or selling T-shirts in your size and color. And it seemed like being tainted with the marketplace was distasteful. And yet, that's all we got left.
Yeah.
All right? So congratulations, punks. We won, I guess, right? The record industry is kaput, except, the stub end of the form that sells us Taylor Swift. And she can't really sell albums either.
Yeah.
I spent $1,000 remaking T-shirts for this band. I went on strike from it about 5 years ago after we got into a beef with some people. I was like, fuck this merch shit. I didn't get into this to be in the rag trade. I want to make records. And so I focused on that for 5 years. But now I have relented since we're going on tour next month and we need a bunch of T-shirts. So can afford the gas.
Yeah. Well, driving back last night with Mandy, who is our bass player, she was saying, one of my friends in Florida really wants a hat. How much? I was like, just take the damn hat and send it to him. Like, if he wants to give us some money for it, awesome. Like, otherwise, whatever. She was saying this is so much different than her experience in other bands. She's like, even bands she has been in that she helped pay for the merch, they're still like, nope. Shirts are $15. You got to pay $15. You can't just have one.
Yeah.
Again, it's more about the message. We'd rather our name be out there. But also, for us, it's no judgment on anybody else's, decisions we've made for ourselves. For us, it's not a business.
Look, man, I tell you,
I know for some people it is. Like, we're not on tour. We don't have to make gas money. Maybe if the situation was different, it would be different. But for us, it's not. And I definitely see that as a luxury that we have that many bands don't. Because we're not worried about making it to the next town. We're not worried about paying rent. We're not worried about any of that with the band paying the bills.
I think your band is a psyop, just like my band. Okay, we're not trying to make it in show business. That would be ridiculous.
Right.
Okay, we're trying to make it in the messaging business.
Yes.
We're trying to get our messages across. It's a psyop. It's an art project. I don't know what. It's a guaranteed money loser that we're doing for other reasons.
Most definitely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And this was never a viable career option until Green Day came along and made people reevaluate some things. But that also will never happen again.
Yeah.
There will not be another Green Day.
No.
So, nor should there be. But I think we're at a weird fucked up moment where the social networks are of no help and value whatsoever. The social networks are keeping our messages from going across. Every time we post a track or about a gig, we get 2 likes to it. If this is going to work, if these psyops are to succeed, it's going to be person to person.
Yeah.
In the parking lot at an all ages show. Right. In the store. Oh, I saw you last night. It's going to be, that's the only way this is going to work.
Right.
It's the only way it's going to have the effect that we hope for.
Right.
I wish we were better organized. I wish we were smarter, better organized, and better funded, don't you?
Oh, definitely. But that's another reason why we pretty much only play all ages shows is that for us, we feel like it's the kids that need to hear the message, right? The kids that need to hear, hey, you're not alone. Hey, you do have support. Hey, there are people that value you, regardless of how you identify, of who you are, of who your true authentic self is. Like, there is value in that. And we love you.
Yes.
And we want you here, and we're glad that you're here. Right? I mean, everybody needs to hear that.
I wish I could say that as eloquently as you, Bo.
Well, thank you.
Okay, well done. Yes.
Thank you.
Please come to our gigs and say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I love playing with y'all. Like anytime y'all have an open slot, please.
All right.
Yeah, that's an important message that I don't think people hear nearly enough. And that's our psyop, right? Like, look, you're loved, you're valued, you belong. Show up and you're safe at our show. That's it. And, people get tripped out sometimes because, like, we see you playing and you're, like, aggressive and you're over and you're loud and you're whatever. Like, but you're singing about, like, love and you're singing about compassion and empathy. I was like, yeah, like, I mean, I'm still angry and pissed off. But I'm pissed off because these things aren't happening and they need to be. Like, I can be angry with my love. I can be angry with my acceptance. I can be aggressive with it. If people can be aggressive with their anger and aggressive with their hatred, why can't I be as equally aggressive with my love and acceptance?
Well, yeah.
The
answer is, well, heteronormative expectations, I think would be the short answer for that is why you can't. But I'm not sure I feel safe at my own gigs. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm positive I don't, okay? I'm a guy who feels a ton of anxiety about all this stuff, which is pretty curious for someone who's a lifelong performer.
Yeah.
But I never feel as exposed as I am when I'm around the gig. Mm-hmm. Up on stage, I'm a little better. I got something in my hand I can defend myself with, but I'm usually empty-handed walking around at a show. I don't feel safe, Bo.
Yeah.
I can't make any promises of safety to anybody. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
I'll defend your ass if there's trouble. I'll stand up for you. I will stand between it. But that's an interesting mindset. You're more comfortable than I am.
Yeah.
It's a stressful situation for me.
Yeah. And we were actually, at one of the shows, past couple nights, we were having this conversation, or I said, because we all have histories, right? Johnny served some time and was approached by a gang while in prison to join, and he's like, well, let me think about it and get back to you. And his response was getting a giant X'd out swastika tattooed on his chest. He's like, here's my response.
Oh.
Bill has
the anti swastika.
Right.
Okay, he got an anti-fascist tattoo on his chest as a response to the gang offer.
Correct.
Thank you. That's a stand-up thing to do.
Right.
I just wanted to be clear I understood that.
Yeah. Bill has his history. I've fought Nazis and fascists and skinheads, like physically fought them. We were talking, like, I think we might be the most unassuming tough guy band in our area, because none of us really go out and we aren't like, hey, look what we do. But our words aren't just our words. Like, there's action to back up everything we say.
Yeah. Who think they're tough guys or want to be tough guys. They're not.
Right. And going to what you said, like, yeah, I can't guarantee that some idiots aren't going to walk into a show and start causing drama or start causing violence. I can't guarantee that. But what I can guarantee is that you're not going to face that by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
That we will put ourselves in front of you so you don't have to face that by yourself.
Mr. Todd Crazy, he don't give a shit anymore.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it all, but I've seen enough.
Yeah.
I will not play this any longer.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's so much easily accessible daily hatred and intolerance in our world that for us, it's that hope, love, and compassion piece. Like, we need to make that as easily as accessible. Yeah. And for me, who writes most of the lyrics, like, that's what punk rock and the punk rock community has taught me. When I had nowhere else to go when I was a teenager, the punk and hardcore scene, open arms, come as you are. We're just glad you're here. And that's not saying that there weren't some really messed up things happening or happen, but still, it was like, come as you are. we're glad you're here and you have a community and you have a family within this scene.
Yeah. Can I ask how old you are?
47.
Thank you. Okay. What was your epiphany band?
I've had a couple. The first song I ever heard that made me realize there was more to music than just entertainment was the Public Enemy Anthrax crossover Bring the Noise. When I heard that song, it was like somebody kicked me in the brain. And it was like, holy hell. Like, I've listened to music before this and I've liked it or I didn't like it. This is the first song I ever heard that made me feel something in my soul.
Wow.
Through that, then I found punk. And so I think the first punk album I ever bought was Group Sex by Circle Jerks.
Good choice.
And then from there, it was
this would have been out of the oldies bin at that point, though. That was not a new release.
No. And and then from there it was a very.
Did you catch Anthrax on tour in those days?
Not in those days, but I've caught them many times since.
Yeah, well, Scott Ian's quite a guy.
Yeah, and so is Charlie.
Okay.
Charlie Benante, the drummer. But from Circle Jerks, it was a very quick jump to 7 seconds. And from 7 seconds, it was a very quick jump to early Discord records, like Minor Threat, State of Alert, Government Issue, that stuff. And so that was my foundational, whatever. And then getting into the DC punk and hardcore scene. And so the first show I ever went to where I felt a connection. So in DC, there's a park and it's called Fort Reno. And Fort Reno put on free concerts a couple times a week every summer. And you could go and see a classical orchestra play. You could go and see jazz play, whatever. Not Minor Threat. The Fugazi would usually play once a year, this massive free show there. But when I was, I don't know, maybe 16, there was a hardcore show there. And up until that point in time, like I listened, and I still listen to everything. Like I was listening to metal, I was listening to industrial, goth, punk, hardcore, everything under that greater umbrella, alternative and grunge and, everything under that greater umbrella. And there were 3 DC bands playing. There's a band called Darkest Hour, and they opened. It was a band called Battery, and then a band called Damnation AD. And Darkest Hour played, and I was like, oh, cool, I like them. I'm into it, dig it. And then Battery played, and again, something in my soul started to move. And they ended their set with We're Gonna Fight by 7 Seconds, which, I can never say enough positive things about 7 Seconds and what their music has done for me. And then Darkest Hour played. And they played this song called, and Darkest Hour is more, definitely has more metal influences in their hardcore. Probably one of like the early precursors to quote unquote metalcore. They had this song called No More Dreams of Happy Endings. And like by the end of that song, I was like, this is what I am. Like I have finally like found my home. And so from then on I was like, a hardcore kid, cut off camo shorts, band t-shirt, still, 30 years later, it's still my go-to thing.
And if you like aggressive music, it sticks with you for life.
Yeah.
It really does.
From then I started finding more like political stuff. I went to see who was playing. I think Avail was playing in DC, but a band called Boy Sets Fire was opening for them. A Boy Sets Fire, the first time I had seen them, first time I heard them, their singer, Natasha, was so emotional and open and vulnerable with their stage presence and performance. And that was sort of like the next kick to me from like, okay, like I love this, but now they're like I really like this. Yeah. So, anyways, I hope that answered.
Yes.
Natasha now has a band called the Iron Roses. So, if you haven't heard the Iron Roses or Poison's Fire, I recommend both of them.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So what's next?
I mean, we've been talking a while, so I want to be respectful of your time. Okay, let's start wrapping this up. What gives you hope?
What gives me hope? Oh, well, my kids and my children are adults now, and into their lives and into their careers. And not only was that the best project of my entire life, but they give me new hope on a daily basis. So, and yeah, they're proper leftists like their father.
Nice.
All right. But they radicalized me.
Yeah. Kids have a way of doing that.
That is the truth. I thought I was, well, I guess I was a liberal. They made me a leftist. Also, I'm involved in gardening. And gardening is a pursuit where you get to experience daily the renewal of life and the fact that life exists beyond just the human realm. And so that, I guess, keeps me grounded.
Cool. Okay, what are you listening to?
What am I listening to? I'm listening to you, Bo. You're talking to me on my headphones.
Other than my
hold on.
sultry
Let me
voice.
go get some visual aid so I don't.
Please.
Just so I don't misannounce this. It's all on the turntable.
Nice.
All right. Hold on.
Yep. Yeah, we're here.
I'm walking over here right now and scooping up records. Now I think this will prove indicative of what I'm into.
Okay.
And also where I am in life.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, when you're at my stage of life, your friends start dropping by the wayside.
Yes.
And this is a story that just keeps repeating. Your friends who took care of themselves and your friends who didn't take so much care. And they start dropping by the wayside. And we keep telling this story until there's no one left to tell this story. And that's where I am right now. But anyhow, yesterday I got a record from The Breaks, Robert Walter, Eddie Robertson, Stanton Moore. This is New Orleans Funk Boogaloo.
Okay.
Instrumental. This is the bomb. If you like stuff like The Meters. Stanton Moore is an entrepreneur and drummer who is a co-owner of Tipitina's and is also very busy playing drums. So, not too bad. My friend Malcolm in Portland just died. He was the co-founder of Fatal Erection Records along with Poison Idea's Pig Champion. And so I've been listening to some Fatal Erection releases like the Imperialist Pigs, Darby Crash Rides Again. These are other Poison Idea things. Poison Idea, record collectors are pretentious.
That's a great album.
The reissue of the Pick Your King EP. I have 2 copies of this on the original issue on clear vinyl, friends. Okay?
Oh, wow.
That I bought for $2 back in the day and is now in a safe deposit box somewhere. Along with my Negative Approach single and a couple of other records. Aretha Franklin, Lady Soul. Super Soul, Richard Groove Holmes. Okay.
Nice.
I think the Beastie Boys sampled this guy.
Yeah.
It was a great organ-based record. Claudine Longet died recently. She was a French pop ingenue who murdered her boyfriend and got away with it. All right. And this was huge news in the 1970s. Andy Williams. And she murdered her skier boyfriend, whose name was Spider Savage. Spider Savage. It's a name like Evil Knievel, You just remember that. She murdered that guy and got away with it. Now she's gone too, but her records are something else. She was kind of like the French Astrid Gilberto. She's of the breathy pop chanteuse variety. Oh, Herbie Mann, Standing Ovation at Newport. Oh, yes, friends, if you like good jazz funk. There's another guy who got sampled by the Beastie Boys and Sublime and many others. That's the kind of shit I listen to a lot of. There's also this Poison Idea Last Live in France that I thought was in that stack. But anyway.
Cool.
We do play a lot of PI around here. We're not just on their label. We're lifetime fans.
Yeah. God, great band.
Oh my God. On the road with the Hard-Ons, playing festivals in Europe. Okay?
This is something I've talked to you about a couple times, but I have a close friend in Seattle, and y'all know a lot of the same people. I just can't believe you don't know each other. But his name's Andy Caro. And he was in an early Seattle band called March of Crimes. I mean, he toured with Poison Idea. He toured with the I can't think of their names. I don't know. I can't think of their names.
Wow.
Regardless, like y'all ran in very similar circles.
And it was a small scene back in those days.
Yeah.
And a lot of connection between Portland and Seattle. I got TF out of the Northwest by 1986, 1987. I was just like, had to leave. It was one of these classic things. My dad, big spender, took me to the hot dog stand for lunch. He was like, son, I don't know what you want to do, but we can both see nothing is happening in Seattle, Washington. I was like, oh, yeah, Dad, Seattle's dead. There's no music scene whatsoever here in Seattle. And not much of a tech scene either.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, had I stuck around Seattle another year or two, we probably would have been signed, strung out, dropped, all these things that could have happened. And, instead, I packed it up and went to San Francisco and got in the tech business down there, which, it was a much larger market, impossible to distinguish oneself in that. Yeah. And down there, well, there was a million different scenes happening. Okay, we were not involved in the grunge scene in those days. What was happening was Gilman Street was right down the road from where I worked. But they didn't have booze. Okay, so I was in the lounge corps. I played in lounge bands that were playing like Billie Holiday and Patsy Cline and Brenda Lee and Peggy Lee and other kind of, torch music. Lounge corps.
Gotcha.
That's what we thought was going to happen next.
Cool. Okay, next question.
All right.
Similar to the first, or the last one, but a little different. What do you think people should be listening to?
What do I think people should be listening to? Abusements. I think they'd learn a lot if they listen to my band and yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We can stop right there. I wouldn't be doing this if I thought they should ignore it. I think a lot of people should listen to both of our bands right now, and you will thank us for it later.
Well, I'm thanking you for that now. Thank you.
Okay.
Cool. Last thing, and I want to apologize. When I first introduced you, I introduced it as the Abusements. There's no the. It is
but that's just conversational.
I know, but
we fight that battle every time we make a poster with somebody else, and we have to ask them to take the off of it. But no, it's not to worry, and that's how people refer to groups. Okay, yeah, Ramones always appears on the album cover as Ramones, but it's the Ramones,
right? Cool. So speaking of Abusements, where can people find your music?
Abusements.com is a URL that we own, and that's we don't have an EPK. We've got a website that's in charmingly hand-coded HTML. I did it myself, Mom. Come see us, abusements.com. Or if you want to buy something, it's abusements.bigcartel.com. Okay, Big Cartel is the same web store that everybody else uses. We are abusements.bigcartel.com. The T-shirts are in stock. The album's in stock. I'm almost out of CDs and DVDs, so.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, my friend.
Hey, thank you so much, Bo. It's an honor. I hope this has been interesting or at least made sense.
Oh, yeah. Like, one of the unexpected joys that I get out of doing this is I get to have conversations with people that I don't usually get to have. And
it's chaotic at these gigs.
Yeah.
And we're both doing our jobs and going in 5 different directions.
Right.
Also, you can't hear anything.
No, and you have so many other people talking to you, so we don't really get the opportunity to sit down and have these deeper conversations and deeper understandings. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it.
We get to talk about the deeper stuff, and I've had this long and really weird life that I'm lucky to still be alive in. Yeah. Okay, and I wanted to work on computer music, and I got to. All right, I really thought that stuff was neat and was the coming thing. And I was lucky. I got to work on computer music with the guys who kind of invented hard disk recording on the Mac. And, well, shucks, that was exactly what I wanted. And then I wanted to learn how to do real estate because I figured, well, that's how money's actually made. Shit, careful what you wish for, friends. Okay, you might get an education in real estate like I did, and that scar tissue to show for it. But, yeah, it's been good all throughout. I just wanted to fuck around with music mostly, Bo.
Yeah.
I wanted to make music that was like I wanted to hear from a radical perspective. Okay? I didn't care for groups like The Clash and Rage Against the Machine, which seemed like politics from a corporate perspective. Especially Rage, who to me are well-intentioned yet incoherent. And I'm that guy who got that Clash London Calling album, and I listened to 4 sides of it and said, fuck this sellout shit. And I took out my buck knife and scratched all 4 sides of that with the buck knife, so it was unplayable, and then got on my bicycle and rode back to Everybody's Record Company on Canyon Road in Beaverton and insisted that they give me something else because this giant smoking pile of shit was never going to fly. I felt so betrayed by The Clash.
You're hurting my heart a little bit.
I walked out of there with a Patti Smith record and a Lou Reed album, and I felt like the world was set correct again. Screw these London posers. I'll take New York rock.
You're hurting my heart a little bit.
I was so angry with The Clash, man. We felt fucked. And I was late to the hate Clash party, okay? Because everybody else had given up by the time that Giving Them Enough Rope came along. But I thought that album had merit. That sounded like a rock record to me, where the first record had some sonic shortcomings, but was still, profoundly awesome.
Yeah. So I actually I'm a huge Clash fan. Still am. Like, huge.
I'm a huge fan. I just jumped off after 2 records and some EPs.
I got it. And and that's okay. But so I have an original painting by Kevin Seconds of the his interpretation of the Give Them Enough Rope album cover. Yeah. So anyway,
I released an album from my electronic band that was a absolute send-up of Give 'Em Enough Rope. And one of these things, well, basically. We had to bury that band, too. That was another long story.
Yes.
Band gets shut down, and you have to pull everything from the internet.
Yeah.
Because you pissed off the wrong people who control your life.
Fair enough. Okay, we're going to come to a close. Thank you again.
Thank you, Bo.
Thank you, everybody who is listening to this, who has listened. I really appreciate it. I have a couple really neat interviews lined up with people, so please continue listening. Tell your friends about it. And, as I've said a couple times, with hope, with love, and compassion, we will see you or hear you next time, however it goes on these things.